Hello, everyone. It's Marty here from Birchall, and today I'm really excited to be speaking with Pete, the CEO of Tracks Magazine. Today, we're going to go through some of the common questions that we tend to get from investors for equity crowdfunding campaigns, and I'm going to ask Pete a bunch of questions, and then he's going to ask a few for me. So, Pete, great to have you here. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you, mate. You look great and great to be here too. Thank you.
Cool. So I'm going to pepper Pete with a bunch of questions right now. So kicking off, Pete, why would people be excited about becoming an investor in Tracks?
Um, Good question. Marty, the easy answer for that is this. Tracks for the first time in its nearly 55-year history is offering the public an opportunity of being a shareholder. Tightly held in the past, independently owned now, and we want other people to come and join us in that fantastic ride.
And yourself, Peter, can you give us a bit of an overview of the recent history of Tracks and how you came to be the CEO?
Sure. Look, about 3 years ago, it came to my attention that Trax was for sale. And so I spoke to a couple of my mates and spoke to a couple of people on the Trax team. And we put together, a little group and bought it. And I took over as CEO at the beginning because there was no CEO. And I wanted to do it. And, 3 years later, here I am having thoroughly enjoyed the ride.
Amazing. And so now we're here on Birchall raising equity investment from the crowd. Can you give us an idea of why you chose that path?
Look, crowdfunding for us is fantastic. And I tell you why, because every person that invests in Trax becomes an ambassador, not just a shareholder, but you don't buy Trax as you might some other share. You buy it because you love it. And you buy it because you've always loved it. And you want to be part of its future. You're buying a piece of history to be that part of its future. And we just can't wait to get all those ambassadors on board with us.
Amazing. And so at the end of the campaign, if all goes well, you would have raised a bunch of money. What do you plan to do with those funds?
So we plan to do a number of things. Firstly, expand our short-term accommodation business, which we call Track Shacks. We want to expand that globally. We want to improve our travel and do a lot more travel with our customers, with our people. And we also want to move into moving pictures. We see moving pictures as being the future of surf media, and that's where we want to go.
Great. So jumping into a few of those in a little bit more detail, with Track Shacks and the media options that you mentioned there, how do you see those boosting revenue and brand presence?
So track section is huge for us. We've partnered up with an Australian company called Allogio, which is the largest short-term self-managed property company in Australia, and they sort of estimate that in a few years' time we could have well over 100,000 properties on that site, and that's not just domestically, that's globally. That's a big think Airbnb for surfers. We are hoping that's going to be a big business for us. And so far as moving pictures and fast TV is concerned, what we want to do with that is create a tracks channel, and on that tracks channel have surfing, snow, music, lifestyle sort of stuff. It's free to air, it's 24/7, and it has a global reach. So we're super excited about that as well.
Amazing. So, going down the crowdfunding path will allow tracks to remain independently owned. Can you explain to us why that's important?
Oh, look, independence is critical for us. Absolutely. It allows you to think, to create, to say things, to write as you want to, not as a shareholder in a big company wants you to. It allows us to pivot, to move quickly, and to do things with our shareholders, which is what we're really excited about.
Great. And can you give us an idea of some extra incentives for people becoming investors in tracks?
Yeah, I think you describe them as rewards, and they certainly are. We're lucky enough to have loads of those. So when people invest in tracks, they'll not only get the bumper sticker which says, I own tracks, and that's bragging rights in any street. But we've got loads of merch that we'll be giving away, and tees and hats and hoodies and for those that invest big, we've got track surfboards that we just can't wait to get people's feet onto.
Cool. So, looking forward to the future of tracks, can you give us an idea of how you plan to use the legendary status of tracks to succeed in the digital landscape?
Yeah, good question. So we've already started doing that. So 3 years ago, we made a decision that digital was the way to go, whilst we must keep the tactile. So we've started doing that. The digital world is really important for us. We're going to crank up that side of the business in a big way, including introducing what we're calling the Tracks Wanderlust bus, which will be a bus travelling around with a few photojournalists, sort of a reality TV type thing, but concentrating on the digital and the social media world.
Awesome. Um, and it's obviously a competitive landscape in surfing and lifestyle. How do you plan to maintain your competitive edge?
Yeah, look, it is competitive, but when you have a brand that really speaks to to the public, speaks to the people in the same way that it has for 55 years, your competition is lessened. We are what we are, and we have been what we've always been. And so, unlike our other, say, magazine competitors, we're expanding our business. We're moving into other areas. We're not relying on the old print media. Um, those days are gone. We're looking at the future, and the digital moving pictures age is where we're going.
Great. And beyond yourself, Peter, can you give us a bit of an idea of the rest of the management team and what they're bringing to the company?
Yeah, so look, we're lucky enough that the team that we bought a few years ago have all stayed with us. So Luke Kennedy's got salt in his veins. He's just the most fantastic editor and writer, has been for years. He's been with Trax for nearly 20 years. Damien Martin, he's been with Trax for nearly 20 years, sales, marketing. He's doing a wonderful job of managing the company now. Ben Bugden, when you pick up our tactile magazine from a newsagent or you subscribe, he's the brains behind that design. It's just fantastic. And I guess most importantly, one of my directors, Greg Cooper, has been in the financial investment business and markets for 30 years. 15 years as CEO of Schroders here. He's worked around the world. He's an actuary. He knows money, and money is really important in small business. And so we're just delighted to have Greg on board as our CFO.
Amazing. And there was one more person that we saw in your video, Rabbit Bartholomew. Can you give us an
Oh,
idea of his role with Tracks?
so Bugs has been a great mate of mine for many years now, and when I asked him whether he would like to be an ambassador or the ambassador of Trax, he was just so stoked. I mean, Bugs needs no introduction apart from being the world champion in '78. He ran surfing for years in the ASP. He's still super involved in the WSL. He's got his finger on every pulse. He is just so, he's also going to write for us, do podcasts for us, contribute for us. He can't wait to get involved.
Amazing. And one more important person, Pete. So beyond your recent history with Tracks, can you give people an idea of what you were doing before that?
Yeah. So for nearly 30 years, and I still am a barrister at the New South Wales Bar. I do mostly criminal work. I haven't done a lot of that in the last 3 years, I must say, with Trax. But I've also run a number of small businesses and startups, and I know how hard they are. And we see Trax as a 55-year-old startup, and it's just, with my history and all of that, it's just been fantastic to be able to get my teeth into something like Trax.
Awesome. Now, moving forward, all these exciting expansion plans, it's also important to keep a sustainable edge to the business. So, how do you ensure sustainability and social responsibility as you grow?
Sure. Um, Sustainability is important for us. I mean, it's a catchword, and every business would say that, but it actually is because we're confronted with it on a day-to-day basis. And I'll tell you why. Uh, a lot of our magazines are pulped. When they don't sell at a newsagent, they get pulped. That really concerns us, not only for manufacturing something which is just going to be thrown into a garbage bin, but the actual pulping of it. So we have plans to sort of remedy that. And in terms of our social responsibility, first thing we did when we took over was take up Surf Aid, was to take up Conservation International and Surfers for Climate. And we're passionate about those three organisations. In fact, we're surfing in the Surf Aid Cup at Bondi in a week. We just love those guys.
Amazing. And now moving forward, it's a question you can get asked a lot of the time, but in 10 years from now,
Oh,
where do you see Tracks and how does this investment campaign contribute to that vision?
sure. When you see Tracks now, you see a magazine, you see a really good online, and you see a really good website. In 10 years' time, you'll see a global accommodation business. You will see a global fast television business streaming into 170 countries worldwide. You will not recognise, I hope, Tracks, but you'll also still see a magazine on your lounge room table, and you'll be reminded of just how great the ride has been over then. It'll be 65 years.
Cool. And they say Tracks is the surfer's Bible. And I guess if you look back over the 50-year history, you can see some big evolutions in terms of surf culture trends and Tracks
Yeah.
has captured all that. But moving forward, how is Tracks prepared to adapt to those changes? That's probably going to happen very rapidly in the next little while.
Well, I think Tracks is showing right here, right now, that we are adaptable. We are changing. We are moving. We're not scared of surf culture changing. We've been writing about and covering surf culture for 50 odd years, and it's changed over 50 odd years. We've changed over 50 years. Tracks is a very different beast now to what it was in the 1970s when I used to read it. And we love change. I mean, change is the future, which is why we are now open to it and now tackling it.
Amazing. So now jumping into some customer questions or, people from the Tracks crew, because one of the great things about these campaigns is they can become investors. So, how would Tracks incorporate customer feedback into the products and services you're going to be developing?
Yeah, okay. So we've had a lot of that over the last few years. In fact, I love customer feedback, and it generally gets flicked to me, and anyone who writes to me, I write back to them. And we take customer feedback seriously because that's our lifeblood. And we expect with our ambassadors, who will hopefully come on board as investors, we'll get a lot of that because it'll be their company. And they'll be writing to us saying, we don't like this. We love that. So, we'll be listening, no doubt about that.
Cool. We talked about Track Shacks a little bit, but can you give us an idea of some of the locations that'll be available on Track Shacks and what makes them ideal for surfers?
Sure. So, short answer is Elogio are rolling out what they describe as 35 different regions in Australia, and we're piggybacking with Elogio. So, in short, we roll out new regions every few weeks, every month or so. So there will be track shacks within a few years in every surfing destination in Australia, no question about it. And not just with Elogio, but with self-managed. So you own a property at Bells, you can whack it up on our site, and we'll sell it for you.
Great. And the other one now, talking about Tracks Fast and Free TV. Any little tidbits of what you can share in terms of what we might see on there in the future?
Yeah, you'll see the future. That's what you'll see. But you'll also see the past. So there is loads of surf content out there. And don't forget, we'll be moving into snow and skate and music and what have you too. So yeah, we're a heritage brand. So when you jump on tracks, you'd like to see that there were some old movies on there, and there will be. But there'll also be the future. Our production house will be producing our own stuff, our own docos, vids, movies, and we'll be grabbing stuff from everywhere else as well. You won't be disappointed. You'll be entertained.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. Those are all the questions I had for you. Now, you might have a few questions for me in terms of stuff that investors might be asking you, and if they're new to equity crowdfunding. Let me know if you got them there. Otherwise, I can jump into them on my end.
I did have them here.
That's all good. Let me ask myself a question. So, in terms of one of the most common ones we get asked, it's can you explain how equity crowdfunding works and how it differs from traditional investment methods? So, equity crowdfunding, the laws changed in Australia in 2018, and it's a reasonably new form of capital raising. But the really exciting thing about this for people new to equity crowdfunding is it allows everyday people to get involved with exciting opportunities like Tracks Magazine that are early stage companies. So, at the moment, companies that are P2I Ltd or not listed on the stock exchange usually can only raise money from high net worth investors or venture capital funds. But with equity crowdfunding, you can usually get involved for as little as $250. So it's really opening up investment opportunities to the crowd and to the community.
I found the questions.
Great. Away you go.
So these are ones. So can you tell me about the risks associated with investing in crowdfunding campaigns?
Absolutely. So, like I was saying before, this is investing in, what are predominantly early stage companies or companies that are not currently listed on the stock exchange. So you can't actively trade shares like you could if you bought shares in, say, Telstra or BHP. So they are investments for the longer term. So you have to keep that in mind. And in terms of the risks, being companies that are not actively traded in these big behemoths at the moment, there is the risk of obviously those businesses not succeeding and not, moving forward and growing. So you have to keep that in mind. And there's plenty more details throughout the process in terms of the risks involved, but make sure you read them all carefully.
Fantastic. Can you tell us whether there's a minimum and a maximum that you're allowed to invest in crowdsourced funding?
Yeah, so minimum, it's opening up for everyone. It's $250 for most campaigns, and maximum for most people it's $10,000. And with the $10,000 limit, you can go beyond that if you have an accountant certificate that says you're a wholesale investor. And there's some more details that we can share about that. But for most people, the minimum is 250 and the maximum is $10,000.
Sure. So what sort of equity do you get for your investment? In other words, what sort of shares do you get for your investment?
Yeah, so everyone gets ordinary voting shares. So that means you get, an ownership percentage of tracks, and you also have voting rights. So everyone gets that. Everyone gets to sit on the cap table, the share registry. And so that is all based on the legislation. And yeah, so you're becoming shareholders in tracks. That's what's different about crowdsourced funding versus other forms of crowdfunding where you might be getting products. You're actually getting ownership in the company.
So in other words, they get exactly the same shares that I have.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, if I'm an investor, how do I conduct my own due diligence?
Yeah, great question. So throughout the process, there will be plenty of information coming from Pete and the Tracks team. One of the most important pieces of information is called the offer document. And this is where you'll find all the details about the investment opportunity and all the details about the company, so you can make an informed decision. So Pete's working hard on this at the moment. I've seen a few
Oh,
drafts, but you'll be able to see financial statements. You'll be able to see the use of funds, who the owners of the business are at the moment. And really, it allows you as a potential shareholder to conduct your due diligence before making a decision to invest.
so once the campaign starts, how do I find out more information during the campaign?
So, in terms of the campaign, how it kicks off is what's called the expression of interest. So, first step is to sign up with the expression of interest on the virtual website. Now, once you do that, you'll enter into the email databases of the Tracks investment campaign, and you'll be able to get all the information throughout that 3 week period. That'll include invitations to the investor Q&A or the town hall we're going to have, more details about when the investment offer is going live, so when you can actually make investments, and then emails usually 2 to 3 times a week with other updates so you can follow along.
So most importantly, pen poised with my checkbook beneath me, when can I make an investment?
Yes, that's a very important question. So after the expression of interest, which runs for 3 weeks, there is a 2 week investment offer where you can invest in Tracks. And that is your opportunity to get involved. It only goes for 2 weeks. Once it's done, it's done. So don't sit there and wait on the fence for too long. But yeah, 2 weeks is the investment period for Tracks, and that's coming up very soon.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, that was
That's
it,
that's
Peter.
all for
Thank you
me.
so much for your time. That was a really
Thank you,
great chat.
Marty. Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thanks very much.